We often assume that becoming whole means adding something that is missing, but perhaps wholeness begins when we stop chasing more and start integrating what is already within us. Welcome to Centered, Becoming Whole in a Chaotic World. This is a podcast about orientation, integration, and the lifelong work of becoming whole. I am your host, Dr. Jeff Armstrong, a PhD exercise physiologist with a deep interest in the intersection of the physical and the spiritual. My guests are Ramona Roemer and Andreas Heigl, co-founders of Fragmented and authors of Unlongevity. Their work challenges the culture of constant optimization and instead points toward a more integrated vision of health, one that recognizes our biology, mind, emotions, energy, and purpose as inseparable parts of becoming whole. Ramona and Andreas, welcome to the podcast. Let's just kind of jump into talking about the book a little bit. What inspired the title Unlongevity, and what does that communicate about the way we typically think about living longer?
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the invite. We're happy to be here. The title Unlongevity, it came up because, there's so much noise nowadays out there. And we were in the field since roughly 20 years, and we see trends coming and going. And because of this, lots of noise, and it's so crowded, we thought, because everybody's talking now about longevity, our concept is more, hey, let's take a step back. And then we said, okay, we call it Unlongevity. Let's zoom out and have a look what we think is really important for a longer and happier or a well life.
Yeah, and I think also because nowadays the space is so fragmented, there are so many individual offerings out there where the offering itself has a good intention and is meant quite well, but the thing is there's so many that people start adding up everything under the title of longevity that we said, hey, we need to take a break, and like Andreas was saying, take a step back and maybe have a little look over it, maybe from the bird's perspective, or if you want to say from being a bit further away from it, to have a look at it again. And that's why we thought Unlongevity was actually quite a nice fit for that.
I like that. I really like that phrasing, Unlongevity, because we kind of started this podcast, the Aging Well podcast, as a means of kind of just getting information out there about aging well, but it was much more from the physical standpoint. And the more we immersed ourselves into the topic area, the more we realized that it's a lot broader than that. And it's not about just living longer. It's about living with vitality and better quality. And so I really like this idea of stepping back and considering really what it means to live longer. What is the value we're putting into those extra years that we're getting? And so another theme kind of within the podcast is this idea of fragmentation, where do you see people overall becoming most divided and most disoriented in society today?
Well, I think if we maybe look at a specific target group, for example, maybe that's a bit easier for us to show what we're meaning. Like if you, for example, take the CEOs in this world, for example, they have achieved their career and what they are doing, and also the ones that build up businesses, following a very disciplined approach, going from like a project temple, an Excel file, or whatever, they have very strict steps and disciplined steps that they follow. And nowadays, also, I would say that people, especially the ones that are taking care of their health, they have a lot of information. And actually, back in the day, it was maybe just a doctor or maybe just a specialist for certain areas that has this knowledge. But nowadays, it's available to everyone. So these kind of people, they are very informed a lot of times. But there is one thing that maybe is a little bit like a problem that's coming up, because they want to work on their health just like they have built up their business, or just how they have run through projects, so they try to do all these disciplined steps, like what made them so successful in the first place with their profession. However, the thing nowadays, or just general, what the problem is, the body does not work like that, or we as human beings, we don't work according to a project template or like a certain procedure as such. And that's where we see that there is a lot of problems coming from, because the people do a lot for their body, they know a lot, and also for themselves, but they are really like a lot in their head, and they think they can plan this ahead, but the body and ourselves, we're not working like that. It's not working like a project template.
Yeah, and maybe I can add on with doing a lot. For example, supplements is a good example where people now, because you go online on the social media every day, they come up with a new supplement trend, and then people are adding up, and things are not often fitting together. And this is what we see when guests come to us, that often the more they take, the more issues can come up. Because it's a kind of also, every space itself is so fragmented on its own. And I think it's easy to get lost there, and don't know what to focus on.
So why do you think people are falling into that trap, that believing that more and more interventions are going to automatically lead to better health?
Well, I think there are various reasons. So on the one side, you get the information now from everywhere. Compared to before, it was maybe just one source that you got it from, but nowadays you can get it from everywhere. You can get it from your social networks, you get it from your, if you're like into following certain social media influencers, even like doctors or some other practitioners are on the internet, they provide certain information. So on the one side, you have all this information that you can gather yourself. Then on the other side, there's also a bit of this fear of missing out, because they always try to look at the next best. And if I do that, then I will be better, or then I will improve, or then I have achieved it. But they never really like stay in the now and then, to really say, where am I currently standing, and how is this actually? So they are always waiting for this next best thing.
Right.
And instead of just doing nothing, there is like this fear of just missing out, I would say.
Yes, and I think what we often see, what you said before, like running a company, having certain KPIs, they take someone else's blueprint that might fit for this person, and they try to put it over their own situation, and that's often where the issues occur, because everybody's different, it's highly individual, and you cannot have a one-size-fits-all.
Right. And then, if I may add to that, and then the other thing is, nowadays you have a lot of you have the overall system that has to that that cannot do everything anymore, right? They have like a certain time schedule, and they have to see so many patients in such a short time, that they cannot really look at the person individually. So there has to be a certain protocol behind it. And on the other side also, there's some institutes or some places where there's also some commercial idea behind, or some commercial interest behind as well, because once you have like certain say programs or also supplements, you want to of course bring this to as many people as you want. Not that this is meant in a negative way, because they know it's supposed to be good, etc. But if you just have these supplements, for example, and you want to bring this to as many people as possible, that already means per se that you're not looking at the individual and see what that person really truly needs at that time.
Yeah.
And so with that idea of intervention overload, how does constantly trying to optimize ourselves create both biological, psychological, and emotional fatigue?
Right.
Well, I would say, first of all, it creates a stress. And we have positive stress, but this is a kind of negative stress, because if every day you need to manage your health and you need to make sure the supplements, the exercise, and this and this and this, we've seen it just creates stress, even to people that are really, that have a lot of stress and can manage or tolerate stress on a high level. And this is stress for the body, in a way for the organs, in a way for the brain, in a way for our emotions. That this goes through.
And I would say that nowadays we're we have been conditioned now to be really a lot of times in our heads, you know, I mean, with also all this mindset, all this, like, when you want to achieve something, you have to really think it through. We're a lot of time brought to our head, and we're completely forgetting that we are also consisting of a lot of other things, you know. So there's also other areas that we should not neglect. But the problem is, if we're constantly in our head, it's difficult to see all the other areas as well and how they interplay with each other. So nowadays, even, like, I mean, when you look at people, they wake up nowadays, the first thing is to check on their phone how did they sleep. They track everything, and they need to make sure that everything has worked out just as it was told it has worked out, without actually just waking up, maybe looking around, drinking a coffee or a tea or whatever, you know. It's like right away there has to be some performance rating behind it to see, did I sleep as good as I'm supposed to? And then if I didn't, then it creates stress to think about, why didn't I?
So how does someone recognize the difference between genuinely improving their health and simply becoming busier managing it?
I think it's the feeling of, you know, when maybe we compare it to a orchestra. So if you just think about an orchestra, how you have all these perfect musicians, they are really great on their own. And when they play on their own without trying to understand what the others are playing, it's kind of like it gets a little bit stressful and it's not so comfortable. And but then comparing to when there's either somebody standing in front, or it's just everybody plays in harmony. It just, like, relaxes you, you know. When you listen to a song that just goes in harmony, you feel relaxed, and you just think that life is easy. Life gets a lot easier.
Right.
And I think that maybe is the difference, what you can feel, you know. And it's, I mean, I've gone also a couple of years, even though we know all this, but we also go personally also through our little ups and downs, which is completely normal. But there was this time when there was a lot of stress, you know. There was always something demanding here, and I wanted to cover everything, and I want to do everything. And then the health popped up, and what I just felt after stepping back, it was just like, oh, okay, I was so much in the head that I just tried to, like, be performance oriented instead of really, like, seeing, okay, how does my life actually flow, and where am I actually supposed to be, and what should I do and what shouldn't I do? What should I add and what shouldn't I add? And once I brought myself back to that realization, I felt like being in this orchestra, hearing, like, the musicians playing whatever song you like. Everybody has a different taste, but that just brings you down, and you just feel like, okay, life is good. So maybe that's how I would explain it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I would explain, you feel in a way balanced, or you feel in your zone. I mean, of course, life brings some hiccups, but also how you can manage these hiccups, you know, or how you can then deal with it.
yes,
But I would say once you feel in a way balanced and
you feel calm.
happy, so to say, calmer, yes, I think that's when everything fits together.
Maybe just to, like, bring that as well, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that have built their empires also. It doesn't mean that life is not allowed to be busy or stressful, not at all, because there are some people, they have this positive stress, and it really is good for them, and it moves them. So it's not always these conversations about stress, you should avoid stress, it's so bad. It's not that what we're referring to, because there is positive stress, it keeps people moving, and some others, they just need to take sometimes their breaks, you know, more often than others. So I think that's where also we have to get to understand ourselves, because nowadays, for example, everybody wants to be a general manager, but not everybody is meant to be a general manager. Some people are maybe better at being experts, but it's just a nicer profession to be a general manager. I'm just saying that now for an example. So that's the same with your health. You have to understand, what does your body, what do
Right.
you need, and what is good for you, and what is not.
And that's why it's important to also understand in which phase in my life
Yes.
am I. So, and this then also, it's different in the 20s than in the 60s. So you need different things, or you're going to need to focus also health-wise on different aspects.
True.
I like that orchestra analogy because when we think of music, we all kind of know when music sounds good. We don't have to necessarily be, a trained conductor or anything like that, but there's certain music you don't need a full symphony orchestra in order to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. So maybe sometimes a quartet or a quintet
Right.
does the job, but we're trying to throw in all these additional instruments, and it may sound okay, but is it necessary? Do you need 50 horns in your orchestra in order for it to sound good when maybe one, trumpet might be enough?
Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, the Beatles, they recorded on a 8-track recorder and still great records. Nowadays, they have hundreds of tracks digital.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you start getting into how music has changed over the decades. I think it was so much more simple when, in my youth. I'm probably a little bit older. I know I'm a little bit older than you guys just from looking at you. I'm in my 60s. So, thinking back to those times, where, it was, one person kind of mixing several instruments, whereas now it's just like so much digital noise going into that, and they're refining everything and they're tuning everything. And I think we can get a little bit crazy with our bodies the same way we can get a little crazy with tuning the music.
Right.
Exactly.
I think a lot, and I feel bad. I've made comments that I want to live long enough to attend Brian Johnson's funeral. And I really have to pull back on that now that, he's discovered that he's got this autoimmune disease and everything else. But my intent isn't to wish him ill well, but it's to underscore, he's taking hundreds of pills every day, spending millions of dollars a year for longevity. And yes, some of that might be very important stuff, but what if it's only one of those things he's doing that is, key to his longevity, and we're investing all this stress and energy into a bunch of things that really don't work. And I think we need to kind of step back, look at, okay, what's the most important things that I do in my life for my longevity? Are those working? Do I need a little bit more? What do I add? Is something maybe duplicating something, or is it unnecessary? And I can pull back on that so that we're not investing so much in trying to refine our lives and causing so much stress on ourselves.
Right. Yeah, maybe I give one example from my a patient we recently had. And this lady, she was diagnosed with, or actually, when she came to us, we saw that there was one value very high from her papers, from her test that she sent previously to us, where we said, okay, this is a clear indication for leaky gut. And I don't know if you know leaky gut, but if you have that, it's basically life-changing. You have to change so much in your life. And then depending on what kind of person you are, for some it's a bit more difficult, for others it's a bit easier, but it means a drastic change normally. And then when she was with us, what we found out when we were talking to her is that she actually had a very traumatic, emotional roller coaster. She went through this emotional roller coaster for more than a year, and that was really, really tough on her. So that's when we looked at like this laboratory parameter completely different again, because we understood she has gone through such a big traumatic time that in her body things can change because of these emotions that can be released later on, though, and that can get better later on. So then when we have looked at that parameter again after she had been with us a couple of days, we saw how this value had decreased a little bit already, and actually, well, not a little bit, significantly, so that you saw that it was actually fluctuating. And this showed us that this problem that she had, this leaky gut, was actually just a short-term problem, and that it's not necessary that she completely changes her life. She had already got more emotionally stable, and if she just continues like that, it will be fine. So this is what I want to say with that. It's like so individual, and there's so many factors that play in. It's like your emotions, it's the energies, it's the environment around you. There's so many things that have an influence on us, and that sometimes you cannot get control over, or sometimes you have to see what is the area that I need to look at first before I start trying to solve something over here.
Yeah. Is it really the next supplement, or is it a different area that I should look at and where I should focus on first?
Right.
And that's a little bit what you said when you started coming more from the physical field and you're also more involving. I think that's important, because longevity is not just the physical thing, and it's much more.
Right.
So your framework is built, as kind of you've alluded to here, is it's built around 5 interconnected axes, if I'm understanding correctly. So you have the biology, the cognition, emotion, energy, and purpose. First of all, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And so, of course, you've alluded to it a little bit, but why is this important to view these as an integrated system rather than separate domains? And how do you go about kind of balancing those out in terms of, kind of, I think of like tuning in a radio or something like that. We have multiple knobs, and you're kind of turning up one thing, turning down something else in order, and maybe better going back to that musical analogy. If you're mixing music, you want to pull in a little bit more of this, a little less of that. How do you go about doing that professionally with your patients, your clients, in order to kind of bring them into that greater state of unlongevity?
Right. So maybe to your first question, why are they so important and also connected, or could they look individually at the various areas? So what we have learned over these years, at first we were also, just like you were saying, in the biological health. So we were just looking at from a clinical perspective. We had like the conventional medicine, and we had the natural path medicine, and that we were really able to bring the people to a very good physical health state. So that is a thunderstorm. So we brought them to a very good physical state. But what we realized, that even though these guests of us, they were at a very good condition medically, and also from a personal perspective, they were doing very good as well, but there was still something missing. It was still that it wasn't really, for some people it worked very well, and for others it just didn't work as much. Although from a objective perspective, they should have worked the same way. And then we saw over the time that actually there is more to feeling good and feeling like at full capacity, or very satisfied with your life. And this was also due to personal circumstances. We were able to look into other fields to see what else is out there, because back in the day it was not just the Western medicine. Next to Western medicine there's a lot of other medicine as well, and we saw all these traditional medicines and also other areas. And what we saw is that there is actually some areas that were together many years ago, and then they were separated for several years. And when we tried this out, because we always try out everything ourselves, it really was for us mind-blowing to see what you can achieve if you bring everything together again, all these different fields. But you cannot, he could not bring it together the same way as I could, because we're just completely different individuals. So what you have to consider is, what from all these fields, what needs the first attention, that you can actually untangle the knot that is there. And that can be completely different. In an ideal world, you always start, okay, we are here, we have this kind of purpose, and if we follow our route and we do everything according to this purpose, everything will be fine. We're going to be healthy, we're going to laughing, we're going to hug each other, and we're going to be happy. However, we are not in this perfect world, because we are conditioned. There's a lot of influences that we receive. So everybody starts at their really true individual state. And this is maybe now going into your second question. How do we do this at our clinic? For us, when we before somebody comes to us, we see already a lot of information from these individuals, just to understand where are they currently standing from an objective physical health perspective. But then once they come to us, we start like looking and observing already to see, how does this person get out of the car? How can this person move? Is this blocking? Is this really free? And how are we talking to each other? Is there trust already? No trust? There's a lot of different factors that we take into account. And then when we sit down with the individuals, we have long discussions. We talk a lot to understand what is their situation, if they are comfortable also, like what has happened in the past when something occurred, or what have they gone to. There's a lot of information collection, if you want to say so, but really on a informal way.
Yeah,
I think you could say. Huh? And then once we have that, we then also do some medical testing, and then we know already what is the most important area that we should target, that we should get into. And this is the same for our program, whether people come to us, or also for our virtual programs, for our 1-year longevity programs, where we first try to understand what is the first area that we need to address, that we then untangle the knot more and more.
Yeah. And maybe I just add, I like your music analogy and the mixing. Maybe our concept is like a 5-track mixer. And we need to see that the track is well balanced. So if one track is too loud and the other is not loud enough, we really need to see that every individual track sounds nicely.
I like that. And we're going to probably keep going back to that music analogy. And I love the approach, because one of the things that I've learned to really stress to my students, I teach exercise science at a college here in Oregon. And we hear so much in medicine of just kind of the biological, so we can look at the biology, we can treat it with a pill or some other kind of therapy and be done with it. But, I started kind of recognizing it is much more biopsychosocial. And then I had a biomechanics colleague who's like, well, wait a minute, no, it's biomechanical psychosocial. And you really underscored that when you talked about, you want to see them, how they get out of the car. We've had one physician on the show that he says he always greets his patients in the lobby area because he wants to see how they get out of the chair. Mm-hmm. And that you get so much information from focusing in on those other dimensions, rather than just, okay, we did your blood work and you're a little bit high in this marker, so we're going to give you this pill. Yeah. And so I love that approach, and I love the mixing of the music kind of approach as well. But as you look at that, which of these 5 dimensions do you find to be the most commonly neglected, and what are the consequences that you see over time?
I think for the guests that come to our place, because for us it's we have them from all over the world. So you have certain cultures that have more tendencies of neglecting certain areas, but generally, for us, if we have a newcomer, I call it, they come because of word of mouth. So they have already kind of we have already a first, not earned, but first earned trust, right? Because somebody said, hey, this is good, you should go there. So, but then what they first need to do once they open up, that normally happens easier if they come with physical health issues. Because if you have, like, for example, like a chronic pain, that's more likely that you go somewhere and you get this treated. But that doesn't mean that you're going to open up on the whole scheme, right, from all these different areas. Because for that, they don't have this trust yet if they are newcomers. So that needs some time. It doesn't right away work that way, So I think if we look at it like that, for the people that we see, it's more that they come first of all for their physical health, and only when they know us and they have trust, then they open up to the other areas. Yeah. But
that also answers a little bit the question, because I think the physical health is always what people put on priority number one, and the other four much less. It's not much looked at.
Although it's increasing, because nowadays you see more and more people also doing or doing certain things that they would not have considered 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, and this is like, if I take the yoga example, it's not that this is something really for us, but just generally yoga example, if you would have said 10 years ago or 15 years ago, most probably everybody that lives in New York on the Wall Street will run around with a yoga mat after work and do some yoga sessions. If you would have said that 15 years ago or 20 years ago, everybody would have been like, no, like never. Or a lot of people, right? And nowadays it's completely normal that after work some people just go to the yoga practice. So we see that also for us, that for some areas people are getting more and more open. And
I think we will see this in the future. You mentioned before one name, an influencer. You see, when you look periodically at what they are talking about, like us, we're also learning every day, and they're opening more and more up that it's not just this pill or not just this powder. It's much more around if you really want to have a healthy and happy life.
Sorry, not to make this too long, this answer from myself. But I would say that what we see is that the people are really a lot and too much in their heads. So that they want to do everything perfect, and they want to have the perfect sleep, they want to have the perfect food, they want to have the perfect, everything needs to be perfect. And I think that's something we have seen over the years that has increased tremendously. And we see how that is to the disadvantage of some other areas that might be more needed. So when they sit there and right away track, how is my pulse, how is my this, how is my... They have outsourced so much to other devices, to some digital and whatever, and they kind of have forgotten to enjoy their life. You know, it's not okay anymore to drink a glass of wine with your buddy, or to do something, eat something unhealthy, and not right away think, oh my God, how could I have done? I think that has increased significantly over the years, and I wouldn't say that the people are more happy. You know, so I think this is a trend that we have seen over the years.
Yeah, I think you make a good point with this outsourced too much and not being connected with your own body and really scanning yourself. And I think that's a big issue nowadays.
So along that line, what, at a very deep level, at the deepest level, what do you believe human flourishing actually requires? Obviously, it's not just supplements. It's not just success in your high-level job. What do you think it really requires for us to flourish as a human species?
I think the trust in life, that we need to trust again that certain things will flow without us being in the control tower. Would you agree, or what would you say?
No, I would agree. Trust in life.
I stand on his foot, that's why he agrees.
Social, yeah, of course, you're right. Social connections, I think, also bring back some boredom in life. I mean, we're constantly bombarded with everything, which can also not be good for our health. If we're 24/7, tuck. Yeah, that's it. Did I miss something? You're still standing on my foot?
Yeah, it's to know when somebody is standing on your foot and to make adjustments, right? Yeah, I think kind of what I'm hearing from is that we really just need that balance. You know, we have to be in tune with ourselves, but we got to not be in tune in the wrong areas. And I think really kind of going back to, I like that musical analogy, you know, it's like we just have to kind of sit back and enjoy the music. And if it's not perfectly enjoyable, what's out of tune?
Yes,
you know, what do we have to tweak a little bit to kind of get the pleasure back into our lives?
Yes.
Exactly.
And I think for this, it's important once in a while to really zoom out. Because if you do music on your own and you're reeling in the zone and you're playing and someone comes in, it might sound totally off, so but you don't recognize it yourself because you're so in
Right.
and in all this, and that's why it's important to zoom out, have a look.
And maybe because we had this talk with someone else from the US before, in the US, how you have like you have your porch, or not you, but like there's a lot of people that have a porch and they have these. Is it a Hollywood schaukel? What is that called?
I think this chair when you go back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Go like this, and we had this discussion that is actually such a good time to sit there and just take this time for yourself. But a lot of people, it's difficult nowadays for people to do so because it's either the boredom comes up or the uncertainty if I should be doing something. But when you think about like the elderly, how they were sitting and just like being coherent with themselves or just like relaxing a bit. I think that's just nowadays very difficult for people to do.
Yeah, I think it's really an issue that the boredom is gone because our body is a highly complex machine. And like every machine, it can break. If it's always constantly running and you want more and more and more, this can create issues. So bring back the chair.
We say Hollywood schaukel. I don't know how you say that.
I'm trying to remember what we call those. My grandmother had those, and I loved those kind of chairs. They just, I think they called them a glider.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Okay.
It was a glider because there was a time when I was in college. I went to school at West Virginia University, and I had a sister who lived in the southern part of West Virginia. I'm from Pennsylvania originally, if you kind of know the area of the U.S. a bit. But I was working at this like a home remodeling kind of store. Like we have Home Depots and all those. I don't know if you have where you're at.
Yeah.
But I forget what the company name was. But somebody sent me in the back. I was working in stock, and he's like, "Go back and get me a glider." Like a glider. I was too embarrassed to ask him exactly what it was. And I'm thinking, they say ladder? And it took me a while to realize, oh, glider. Okay, that's what it is. So that's what they call them, or gliders.
Glider.
Yeah. But yeah, you bring back a point. Not only do we not have the gliders on the porch, we don't have the porches anymore. I don't know what it's like where you live. But in the U.S., we're building more and more houses with back decks, fenced-in yards, and we've taken away that front porch that really used to give us, first of all, a place to relax, but also a place for social connection.
Right.
Where you're seeing your neighbors as they're walking down the street. And we're missing out on a lot of that aspect of unlongevity.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so, or we think so. And in a way, maybe as a society,
he thinks so.
I hope we bring it back, and we will bring it back. It's just a phase.
Well, say it like this. This is also just like the picture, because actually you can take the break anywhere, right? But it's just like to bring this picture in your mind. I mean, even when you stand on the traffic light or in the cash register or whatever, you can have this feeling as well. It's just it takes some time until you really be able to do this, and that's why it's easier to go on that porch where there's really nothing, because then you get trained a little bit on it. But it doesn't really matter where you live. You can live anywhere, because sometimes it's not possible just to move. If you're at a certain age, you can't just say, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go somewhere where there's a porch and where is this glider. So, but I think this is also what we describe in the book. It's not really about the place, It's not helping that you move out and then everything is fine. Not at all. You can have this anywhere where you are. You just have to think about this picture, when you like you're sitting there, find a place or whatever feels good for you. It doesn't mean that it's right exactly that. Maybe for other people, they relax somewhere completely different. That's what everybody has to find for themselves. What's really that glider for them?
I would say make glider great again.
There you go. That's still MAGA. We can wear the same hats. Make America gliders again. Okay.
Gliders, yes. There you go.
We got it. All right. And so for so many people, this optimization has become part of their identity. And, we mentioned earlier, one influencer, and there's a lot of influencers who go on the internet, that's their whole thing is just longevity and, one particular aspect of longevity rather than looking at excellence as a whole is a more of a big P purpose, as we'd like to talk about it on this podcast. And so how do we go about pursuing excellence without allowing performance to define our worth? Get deep here.
I think already having that objective of excellence is already putting some performance measure on it. I think for us to not say give up everything or do this better and just another protocol, for us is really like just take a step back and just see what is serving you and what is not serving you. So that is not supposed to be another exercise. It's not supposed to be another protocol. You're the conductor. Just take a step back and see what feels right and what just doesn't. What was once good, just nowadays it doesn't. Or do I need an extra thing to be added? Is that really necessary? So I think instead of, and without a big objective, it's just like what makes me feel good? How do I feel about it?
I like that. And she must be standing on your foot, Andreas, because you're not.
I have nothing to add. I have nothing to add.
You can step on the foot very long.
Okay.
That was well said.
In your applause.
So in your experience, what role does purpose play? And again, I like to put that big P in the purpose rather than kind of a small p purpose, because as you mentioned, you have a lot of people who are, in these high performance roles, and that becomes their purpose, but it's not a broader universal purpose that really brings us wholeness. So what role does purpose play in both long-term health and overall human flourishing?
So if you want to say the purpose is basically our guiding star, if you want so,
North Star.
The North Star, yes. Yeah. So it basically gives has the direction that your life will definitely go. You just will decide if you're going to go, if you take some detours or if you make your life a bit easier. So if you understand the purpose, you can more easy, like Andreas was saying before, life is an up and down. That's life. We're human beings, we're not robots. But when you know your purpose, it's a bit more easy to go through the downs and to understand, this is my challenge now, this is what I have to learn. I think it's more like the North Star in this perspective. It gives you some clarity and also some ease, I would say.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You're starting to agree a lot more and not saying as much. You must be really hard on your foot.
The more I only can agree.
I'm not standing on his foot.
No.
That's okay. So when our lives do become fragmented, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, what are some of the first signs that we've lost that center?
No, can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yeah, so when our lives become fragmented, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, what are the first signs that we've lost our center? I like to describe it as kind of an asymptote, that North Star, so to speak.
Right. I think when you feel that your life feels heavy and that everything is against you, or that something always happens to you, that you basically all seeing everything negative. So that is the extreme. But the thing is, a lot of times you don't notice it. It's more the people around you. And those are the ones that give you the mirror. But a lot of times it's difficult to understand that this is your mirror. It's not what they are doing. But it's maybe to say that your life feels heavy.
Again, this balance, unbalance. I mean, the problem is we are so much into everything nowadays, so much stress. So we give ourselves very little time to reflect on us, what we're doing, etc. So it always takes a long time until we realize, hey, we are actually out of balance. And that's often the issue. I mean, again, ups and downs, out of balance. Okay, then you balance back, but the more you get out of balance, obviously, the longer it takes to get back, and that's
And maybe I can bring a personal story also. There was also a time period when I felt like I was the victim of everything, and everything was everything that's happening. It was something that was negative towards me, or that I always get the tough things, and I was complaining and moaning about so many things until somebody got through to me. And
somebody stood on your foot.
No, but when you have that good partner that you can exchange, and that has similar thinking, maybe with different perspectives, then of course it's a bit easier, because at first maybe I can be stubborn as well. Maybe I didn't open up right away, but then after time I started open up and tried to see, hey, this is actually like a mirror for me. And when I saw that things were not against me and that I was not a victim, it was a lot easier for me to cope with it.
But maybe I should reflect on myself, because I feel like the victim. We have 3 kids that are in the puberty, so you can imagine.
No.
So other than yourselves, have you seen examples where improving emotional health or restoring purpose has produced measurable improvements in one's physical well-being?
Yes. So we have a couple. They come quite often, like periodically, and they are really hardworking. Yeah, you consider them in Asia tycoons. And the lady, she's working in a men's environment, and she has always had to be very strong and always very disciplined, and the way everything was really calculated, with a very smart woman. And she had a lot of thyroid problems as well, though. And what we see when she came, and we always sit down, because we only have guests at a time, so we don't have a waiting room. We only have these people that have booked for that place, so we have a lot of time. We talked to her over these times when she came, and just said, hey, you were able to build up this empire, and why don't you start enjoying your life, like visiting your kids? You have reached a certain age, and just go travel. I mean, you've seen the world, but maybe there's other places. And then with time, you saw her, how she was really like going to travel with her husband. I think they travel now 6 months of a year, to see the children, to see places where it's difficult to get to. And we have seen that the thyroid problems, they have improved, and they have significantly got better. And with the time, because we could observe this quite nicely, you saw how that has really, really done a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, you see it. That's why we always go outside, when the driver comes with the guest, as Ramona said. Open the door, let's see how they get out, how in daylight, how their face looks like, their eyes, how they gonna get up the stairs, all these things, because then you also can see already from outside the improvement. Is someone walking like this, or really like this? And often small things, so that can be overseen, but they make a big difference, and you can see this immediately.
Yeah.
So what daily practices best support sustainable health without becoming just another exhausting checklist?
I still would go back to the one recommendation, is really, when you wake up, maybe sit down and just take a step back mentally. Take a step back and just say, what would feel good for me now? Without going into this list of things you have to do. I mean, certain things have to be done. That's not the question, but it's like, what really feels good for me and what doesn't. And that will be something, and at first may sound a bit, or maybe difficult to do, because then you rush into your thoughts. I still have to do X, Y, and Z, or maybe, I was planning my day like this. But just to when you wake up, to first say, okay, what is good for me? What feels good for me?
Right.
This can also be in the evening, but in the morning, it's more like it's a waking up. It's a new start of the day.
And it's what you said, it's hard in the beginning because often we don't want to be confronted with ourselves. That's why we constantly look at if we have some downtime on the mobile phone or watch TV or whatever. We always want to get some distraction. But I think that's what we should come back to really make this step back, get connected again, and
and just don't have another objective or another task for yourself.
So would you promote more of, if you are journaling, which I tend to favor, I love to have people kind of journal morning and or at evening, whichever works best. But when you're sitting down journaling, not to approach journaling as a to-do list, but as a reflective exercise where it's like, how am I feeling? Okay, maybe I do have this sleep data from, my monitor, but before I look at that, how well did I feel like I slept? What am I looking forward to doing today? What kind of exercises would you kind of include in that would better stimulate our well-being as opposed to just simply giving us another thing to do today?
It's really because we're so with how we operate is really like so individual, because for some, I have to say, they are really good at journaling, but for some others it overwhelms them, or they don't, or some don't see the value immediately, and then they just don't feel the motivation to continue. So I think not everything is for everybody, and so I think it's really important to look at this individually. Also meditation, let's take meditation as a classic as well. There's only a very few people that do this and where they really benefit from, while the others struggle and they talk themselves down, or I still have thoughts in my head and I still have that, and actually creates a lot of stress for them, So I think to give like this one exercise that works for everyone has really been difficult for us. For some, they are advanced with like with some work already, and they should look into a complete different area. So it's for us maybe a bit difficult to give this one exercise that everybody can take off.
Yeah, I think journaling can be a great thing, but I agree, it's everybody should find something that works for themselves, and then to get back the connection, because the health comes from inside, and we have this also self-healing mechanisms. And when we can get support from outside, whatever it is, but maybe we should stop to always just think we need the next intervention, the next supplement. Everything should come from outside. We should maybe step back a little bit from the outsourcing and go back from to the in-house work, so to say, and see what we need, what's important.
I like that. And you're underscoring what we teach in exercise science is the principle of individuality, which I think gets underestimated as being important, that everybody is different and we can't just tack on one more thing. And like you said, with journaling, it's going to work for some, it's not going to work for others. And if we just say, you got to start journaling, then that has just added one more longevity step into their practice that's not helping to take away things.
Right.
And so I appreciate that, and I like that advice, that we need to just kind of step back. What works for us? And maybe it's the power of subtraction.
Yes.
Maybe it's like, what can I take away today?
Yes.
What can I do less rather than add on to?
Exactly. Definitely, that's one thing. That's a very good perspective, as you just mentioned, and also before you add something, think about it if it's truly meant for you. If it worked for a friend, doesn't mean it will work for you. Right. Same thing when you have a sibling or so.
So, looking ahead, what do you hope readers of Unlongevity ultimately remember? Not just about longevity, but about living well.
So I think, if we would have achieved when somebody reads the book, that we have brought more clarity to the readers, I think that would be our ultimate goal. That would be very nice for us if we achieved that. And then it's really, like we said, take a step back and see, before you add something, is that something that's truly meant for me at this stage of my life?
Yeah.
I like that the first step to longevity should be to step back.
Yes.
Right.
I like that. So if you could redefine success in one sentence for someone pursuing both health and wholeness, what would that definition be? And I think I'm kind of asking you to do something that you've, throughout the interview, have said, there's not one definition here. but kind of in a nutshell, if you were going to kind of give this overarching, this is really how we should be approaching health and wholeness, what would that one sentence be?
So it's to look at it individually, to see, what do you as a person, what does your body, what do you need and what do you not need? What makes you feel good and what doesn't make you feel good? I think if we would look at this individually, that would already be one step further into better health.
And Andreas, I'm giving you permission to have your own sentence as well.
Well, yeah. No, I just would add, get yourself a porch, get yourself a glider, start with 5 minutes, and then do what Ramona said.
That's why you shouldn't have given them permission.
Yeah. So, if I'm hearing this right, so what we want to do for a kind of whole and well life is, first we got to build a porch, get a glider, and listen to our partner.
Yes, and listen to the wonderful music. If it's an orchestra, if it's an individual player, however big or small it is, find the harmony in your music.
I love that. So finally, what does living a truly integrated life look like to each of you, and how has writing Unlongevity shaped your own journey toward that vision? And again, it's an individual vision. We're not asking you to paint the vision for everyone in the universe.
So for me, what does I think in I have this theoretical point of view where you say, in a perfect world, you would know your purpose. You would follow the path towards this, on this purpose, and you would follow how your emotions are coming up. You would really truly understand each individual part in this coherent path. That would be theoretically the perfect world. But what I've seen with the years that we worked with, and also how on the one side the individuals gain so much more knowledge, and how knowledge is good and has brought us so much, it has distracted or taking us a little bit of our path that we were on, to give us a lot of detours where we start thinking a lot of times too much without trusting our gut feeling, or without hearing and feeling our body, and then listening to our system. I think this is what, also in the discussions we had, was what has been my biggest lesson, is that our complete mental expansion has brought us a lot of detours, even though we know more, but it has made things more complicated as well.
Yeah. For me, it's the gut feeling that you mentioned, to really listen to yourself, but also, how to say that, trust yourself, trust your own feelings, and and it comes back to go more back to in-house, not just outsourcing everything and blindly following everything.
Yes.
I think I would add too that, with those detours, taking a moment to examine, where's this detour taking me? Why is it taking me this route? Is it taking me for a route of growth, or is it taking me on a route of correction? Right. And I think if we do that, we can all kind of live well, and we're going to get better as we're going forward, and better not being excellence, but better being just who we are supposed to be and becoming. I think that's one of the biggest things we forget about with longevity is that we are becoming. I like to promote that, aging is ascension, not decline, and just because we are physically changing doesn't mean we're not becoming better as we age.
Right.
And if I maybe also bring that point into this perspective, also what we have seen is that we have so many difficulties to enjoy the moment. Because we don't know what will be tomorrow. We don't know what will be the day after tomorrow. But still, we don't really enjoy the moment that we are here because we always have this carrot in front of us that we want to run to with a stick. So I think this is what we have seen as well, that enjoying the moment is really difficult nowadays.
Yeah. Because
can't tell if she's standing on your foot or not.
That's a cliche now.
Yes, it is.
Enjoy the moment. Life goes fast, even if you get to 100. I mean, there's so much to see, to enjoy, to experience. It's all about the experiences.
Yeah.
Maybe if I can say that, because this came up a lot. I was thinking about this a lot. You know how we sometimes say to a certain generation that they have a capacity to be aware of 20 seconds. I don't know how best to say that in English. You know how that their awareness span is like 20 seconds, like a goldfish in a glass. And at first I was thinking, they don't remember a lot and they forget what they have said before. But in a way, I'm thinking more and more, but they are enjoying the moment because these 20 seconds, they are right there and they know what it's about, and then they forget it and they enjoy that moment that they are in. So that was just one thought that came across to me lately often.
I like that. That's a good approach, and I do think it's really about being in the moment and what is that next moment. Not looking in the past. Of course, we could take a step back and look at where we're at, but if we take a step back and turn around and just keep looking in the past, that's not getting us anywhere.
Right.
But looking too far in the future doesn't get us anywhere either. And so it's like, what are we doing right now in the present?
Right. Yes. It needs to be a balance. I mean, we need to plan in a certain way, but also we need to let it flow also.
To trust.
Yeah.
So is there anything we failed to talk about? I feel like I could keep talking to you all, especially if I can get in those prompts in there so that, Andreas is getting his foot bruised, But this was really an enjoyable.
We enjoyed it, definitely.
No, thanks. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, yeah.
So where can our viewers and listeners learn more about you, find the book?
Yes, it's unlongevity.com. Unlike unlongevity.com. That's where you can find more about us, about the book. Yes, and about our porch business.
Glider.
So you guys are going to make gliders popular where you're at.
Yes.
We say we let it flow.
Yeah, honestly, I'm thinking, have I seen a glider? When was the last time I saw one? It's probably back at my grandmother's in Ohio. That was a long time ago.
Actually, we had one where I'm from. There's the American military and the guys that lived off base. In this one house, they have like a glider, quite interestingly, where you could sit in. So that's why I had that picture in mind.
I grew up in a community that had front porches, and you either had the what I call it the glider is the one where it's kind of sitting on a base that kind of moves back and forth, but you also have the ones that can be suspended from the ceiling and kind of be a bit more of a swing.
Right.
But we saw almost every porch had one or the other of those, and people would sit out there. I remember, I knew my friends' grandmothers because they lived in the neighborhood or they lived with them, and they were always out kind of watching, keep an eye on us. And we need that in our communities now. We need that source of connection rather than the sources of disconnection.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we know this, and it's proven now by so many studies. We need the social connections. That's so important, especially for our longevity.
But also sometimes it's not okay if somebody sits back and just observes and just watches. That's also okay.
Because that's, again, part of that biomechanical psychosocial piece where it's giving us time to just kind of reflect and find where we're at, where we're going, and who we are.
Yes.
And so it's all important.
Yes.
And I love that you all blend all of these aspects into your practice. And you're like the epitome of what, doctors and, healthcare professionals should be doing. And so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I really appreciate your time today. This was such an enjoyable conversation. Even though, I'm sure, Andreas is going to be icing his foot a little bit tonight.
Yes.
Next time I
But
just
it
go
was
like
fun.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to break it up a little bit. Step on the foot, elbow once in a while. A little bit of both.
Yeah.
But at least, he knows his place. So that's good.
Yes.
Well, I love having you guys on. This was great. Just, keep doing what you're doing. Keep aging well. Keep helping us learn how to unlongevity. I can't think of the verb there. To kind of reverse our longevity by being longevity focused.
Yes.
That sounded really, really bad. That's a poor ending, but we got to end there. Thank you all. I really love this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I'll hit stop. So thank you for listening to Centered. Please like, follow, and share with someone who can benefit. And if you'd like to support the show financially, you'll find a tip jar in the show notes.